Hello, I'm Nasavi, and I'm doing a weapon review for the Handmade. What are its strengths, what are its weaknesses, etc., etc. First off, I would like to say that the Handmade rifle is the highest DPSing small arms weapon in the game. So if you're going to be a rifleman and you want to do some big dick damage and you're not exactly a sniper, then this is going to be your go-to weapon if you want to be a bit of a meta humper. There are other options out there, especially if you have good legendaries for other weapons, but you don't have a good legendary for the Handmade, then by all means use those weapons. But if you do have a legendary Handmade that has a good legendary, then that's going to be doing the most damage. So right now, I've got my Handmade. I call it the pen gun because it has penetration. I name all my weapons very silly things. And the Handmade rifle looks a bit like an AK-47, which I don't really like the look of personally, but it's a great weapon. It works really well, and now we're going to get into it. So for starters, the best magazine you'll find that isn't a high capacity magazine, the one that will net you the most damage, has 20 shots in it. It's got a pretty moderate fire rate, all things considered, not very bad. Reload speed's fine. However, you will find yourself running through ammunition very quickly. That is probably the highest downside of this weapon. I've crafted like a shit ton of ammo for it because I don't ever really want to run out of ammunition. So I just keep it up every now and then. So that's that. Otherwise, it's really just the best small arms weapon in the game. The weapon that I have right now is a anti-armor, aim plus damage. Here. Damage resistance while aiming, plus damage while aiming, and renors 50% of your target's armor. It used to be that two-shot explosive was kind of the meta, the go-to meta, but now it's shifting more towards anti-armor. Now, personally, I have always liked anti-armor, but on top of that, if we look at the magazine choices, the perforating magazine is one of the best magazines because it has the highest armor pen coupled with the largest ammo capacity. There are other types of magazines as well. There's a drum magazine which has, I think, 85 rounds. It has a lot of ammunition in it, but it does not give you a penetration bonus. So for maximizing your damage, you're going to want this. I've also found that another perk that goes well with a weapon like this is the tenderizer perk. I don't really put that much into charisma. I put 1 point into charisma from strength specifically for this perk. So it's really nice. It helps boost your DPS, especially because you're attacking very frequently with this weapon. So another good legendary, I was about to say ultimate, for this weapon would be the Furious upgrade. And I do have a Furious one that I actually have it for sale, and it's just a 1-star. So I'm not really using that anymore. However, definitely a good drop. Another good one is 2-shot. However, I don't like 2-shot because it is wildly inaccurate. I would love to get my hands on a ignore armor and explosive Handmade, but I mean, that's not really adding a lot of damage either, so I don't really have any qualms about that. I'm fine with what I have right now. Looking at the receivers, you're going to want a hardened receiver. You can also do a increased fire rate one if you want. I just find hardened is the best for most situations. The barrel is your choice. I actually use this barrel because it's a mixture of what's best and I think looks best. This is actually like the second most accurate barrel, but I like the long look of it and it works just as well, so I don't really care that much. The forceful stock, there's another stock that is really good that looks just like this stock. I went with forceful, however, because it made the health, the durability of the weapon, the pool, a lot bigger, so that means I have to repair it less. So that's why I went with that. Reflex is dealer's choice. Compensator, you could do a suppressor if you want. I don't like suppressors on basically any weapon. Not only do they look kind of silly, but just how they interact with the weapon in terms of changing its stats are annoying, and I'm not much of a stealth player, so I don't see it as necessary. On a hunting rifle, I could see a suppressor being useful, but as of now, I don't really see it that useful. So yeah, you could also use a compensator or a muzzle brake. I use a compensator. I still haven't found a definite difference between the muzzle brake and the compensator. They do very similar things. So if you see a difference, feel free to use one or the other. But if you don't want to use a suppressor, then you're probably going to want to use this or that. For those of you who like bayonets, I agree. The concept of meleeing with your gun is a lot of fun. However, for some reason, in basically every fucking Fallout game, your melee damage is the lowest I have seen out of any shooter. You know, I've played PlanetSide. I have touched Call of Duty. I don't like it, but I've touched it. Battlefield 2. You do a sizable amount of melee damage with any weapon that you have, but in Fallout, it's like a tickle. And putting a bayonet on your weapon makes that tickle hurt. But it's still a tickle. It's just a very painful tickle. It's like pinching someone. So yeah, that's kind of going over the handmade rifle. So you will find that getting mods for the handmade rifle is a little bit hard. Mostly because there's not a lot of handmade rifles out there. There's one that you can pick up in Harper's Ferry, if I remember correctly, or Berkeley Springs. I'm pretty sure it's Harper's Ferry. I haven't found it, and I think most of the time it's because people pick it up before I get there. But if you go down to Watoga, it's either the Brotherhood of Steel vendor or just the Watoga Station vendor will fairly frequently sell the handmade rifle plans. It's just going to be called a handmade rifle or handmade or something like that. Purchase that, construct a bunch of them, deconstruct them, and you're going to have about all the mods you need in maybe 10 minutes, give or take. It took me a little bit longer because I had to hunt for springs and copper, of all things. For some reason, this weapon takes copper. So yeah, do be aware of that. That's it. Enjoy. I find the handmade weapon to be one of the most boring weapons in the game, but it is without a doubt the best weapon for rifle builds, anyone who's using a small arms build. So yeah, there you have it. I will catch you all later.